What did your parents tell you of that time? Like, what was it like in Mombasa around the time of independence?
Mombasa was a very close-knit community. As I said earlier, each belonged to their own community. We had our own community school. So your exposure was very limited.
Yeah.
You were purely dealing with your community school, then you've got your community club, and then you've got your community mosque. So your life revolved basically on that. It was only when I moved to the United States after doing my O-levels that I was exposed to the real world. And then I just realized, that we were in a small cocoon in Mombasa, and here is a huge world that has people with different ideas, different thoughts, and different cultures. And that opened up my eyes. And I said that 4.5 years in the US has really made me the man I am today.
Yeah. Now, was there any kind of, do you think the integration has started to happen now, 50 years on?
As you agree now with the IT that's going on, it's become a global village.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where now everybody is interacting with everybody, whether it's through the internet or through the Facebook or through the WhatsApp, through the satellites. The world has changed. And I think the change in the last 10 years is tremendously. I mean, when I start thinking of how we were brought up in the 1970s, to the young kids that are brought up now, it's a totally different thing. And when you explain to these kids of how we were, I don't think they're even amused. They've taken it for granted on how the situation is right now. So the integration right now is much, much better. And I think that's healthy for the world, it's healthy for the community, that we need to appreciate each other, we need to complement one another, and we need to strengthen from here on to take the entire world to a new level.
Absolutely. Now, you have a lot to say about sports, and especially cricket and tennis, which is where you've been in Kenya. And where were these sports in 1963, let's say, when we were gaining independence?
Well, as I said, the sports then was different. It was more on town basis. There was maybe an annual tournament that was called Kenya Open in tennis. But it was mostly dominated by the whites in those days.
And what about representing Kenya in those early days?
Well, there was not much. There would be teams visiting. In cricket, there would be teams visiting from Pakistan and India.
Yeah.
And then we would have the MCC from England. And their first trip here was in 1957 or 58, when they first came to play in Kenya. So it was more on representation against provinces, against clubs. It wasn't too much of a national. I think as the years progressed after independence, it was in the 70s, where it now became the national. Like in cricket, we had the East African tournament, where there would be a cricket tournament between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and later on Zambia joined in that tournament.
Yeah. So is this still going on today?
No, unfortunately, it's not going on.
Yeah.
The structure has changed now. I mean, Kenya, as people know, did fantastically well in the international level up to 2003. It's very unfortunate that in the last 5 to 7 years, our cricket has declined and has taken a huge nosedive, that at a stage sometimes it becomes even embarrassing to talk about Kenya cricket. So
why has it declined so much in the last, well, you said 2003, so that would make it almost a decade.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, why have we seen a decline in cricket?
As we say that in any sports to develop, I think there are two fundamentals that needs to be put in place. One is that you must have a good development structure.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the successful sporting countries in the world, you will see that they have a development structure way back from the juniors. You will have an under 11,
yes,
under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19, and then goes to the A team and then the national team. Unless and until you have the development structure, it's going to be very difficult to be consistently doing well in sports. And the examples are very clear with the successful countries that we have, England, Australia cricket, or India cricket for that matter. And secondly, I think it's very important to have a good domestic cricket, domestic competition. And I'm saying this, what I'm talking about, the development structure and the domestic, is for all the sports.
Yeah.
Be it cricket, be it football.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because I was going to say, is cricket still as popular, especially with the younger age groups?
Unfortunately, it's not. And I think it's the responsibility of the national body to try and create a good development structure. And I strongly believe that this needs to be cultivated in the schools. And now with the estates. We need to generate, because that's where you're going to produce the cricketers.
Yeah.
They are not going to come from thin air.
Yeah.
Unless you have a good development structure. And what better than the schools? Because we all came from school cricket. Even the past generation played a lot of school cricket. There was a structured school competition. We don't have that anymore. So unless we go back to the basics with a long-term plan, you know, success cannot come in short term.
And you say this is, I mean, across the board in also other sports?
I think so. I mean, if you look at all the sports in the country at the moment, I mean, it's very sad. I mean, other than the athletes who have done Kenya very, very proud.
Yes, they have.
You know, in the marathons, I mean, every time you
Yeah.
you see athletes and the whole
Although
world.
they went through a rough period when there
Sure.
was a lot of them running for Bahrain or choosing to, you know, change their nationality and things like that.
Yeah, and now there's huge money.
Yeah.
And I think also, I think government can play an important role here. I mean, you know, and I would have hoped that the Jubilee government would have created a Ministry of Sports on its own. And if you look right now, we have a Ministry of Heritage, Youth, and then comes a word called sports.
Yeah.
I mean, sports today is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Absolutely.
And if we concentrated and have a Ministry of Sports, you know, then you know the focus is on sports, where the responsibility of the ministry would go up to the grassroots level, try and create a development structure, you know, create a good infrastructure, have a good budget from the government, and really Kenyan is talented. I mean, look at the results.
And not just in what we see.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, in the 60s, Kenya hockey used to be an envy of the world.
Yeah.
We reached the semi-finals in the Olympics.
Wow.
And this is in the 60s.
I didn't know that.
1960, 68.
Yeah.
So cricket, we played 5 World Cups. You know, from 19...
And I mean, to play, you have to qualify to play the World Cup, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you've reached at that level, I mean, and I give you an example. Bangladesh, who used to be in competition with us, we were ahead of them.
Yeah.
Today, they are much ahead of us. They play at the highest level, and Kenya, unfortunately, has
What's
gone
the
down.
highest ranking we've ever had in terms of cricket?
I think we were number 10 in the world.
Yeah.
But in the World Cup 2003, we reached the semi-finals.
Wow.
You know, in South Africa, and that was a talk of the whole. And I thought that would have been a great platform for the national body to, you know, to take cricket to a new level. They should have professionalized the entire structure.
Yeah.
They should have had a good development program. And unfortunately, it took a nosedive, and it still baffles me that why we've gone down, and it's quite painful.
Yeah. Is that maybe one of the reasons why you chose to make this documentary on your family? Does it cover cricket a lot?
Sure. I mean, you know, the idea of documentary was for various reasons. One was to put on record what the family has achieved in the last so many years. And it was also to inspire other youths, you know, that anything and everything is possible.
Yeah.
You know, and hoping that this will inspire other youths. And I believe every individual has a story. And we have got great athletes in this country. And I'm hoping that the government comes in here now and encourage other past athletes, past sportsmen of this country to do a story that will not only be good for records, it would be good for the next generation.
Yeah. Now, was it your inspiration to do the documentary, or were you approached by somebody?
I was initially planning to do a coffee table book, which is also coming out. It's going to be about 208 pages. But at that time, as those discussions were going on, Amit Tyagi, he has produced a movie called Mwigithana.
Yeah.
It's on Mau Mau, and he was a good friend. And so he approached me one day and said, listen, I think it would be a good idea for you to consider doing a documentary. And I first laughed it off, and I said, you can't be serious about it. He says, no, I think there is a story here. So that's how it started, and from there we developed it. I mean, it's a tough thing to do. I can tell you, doing a documentary, I think is tougher than building a 20-story building.
How long did it take you?
It is taken us just under 2 years.
Yes.
We had almost 65 people who were interviewed.
Wow,
40-hour interviews were done, and then to cut it to under 2 hours, I think the producers have done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
It's been, as you know, it was nominated in the film festival in India, in Delhi 2 months ago, and so that was a great pride, not only for the family, but I think for Kenya.
Yeah.
And it has now been nominated in the Iran International Film Festival, which is going to be held in December. So it will coincide with the 50 years of independence.
Absolutely,
and
perfect.
I think that's a great pride for the nation.
Absolutely. Now, is there an increasing production of like sports documentaries? Is there an industry for that kind of thing?
I think there's a huge potential in that. I don't think it does exist at the moment in Kenya, and I think the government must take a lead on this again. I think we should also consider having a sports museum.
Yes,
absolutely. We have records of great athletes that are there for the articles that there was newspaper media on them, the clothing they used, the things they used. It would be a nice thing
absolutely. It would be so interesting
to have a museum, and then followed by documentaries, and that is the heritage that is the responsibility for this generation to leave for the next generation.
Yeah. Now, what do you think people will find in what is the documentary called, by the way?
It's called The Karims.
The Karims.
Yeah, a sporting dynasty.
Yeah. Now, it truly is a sporting dynasty. What is one of the things people will learn about your family that they might not know?
Well, that anything and everything is possible so long as there is dedication, there is discipline, and the desire to do well.
Yeah. Were you trained by your father, by the way?
Well, obviously, whenever he used to play, I would go there and then get an opportunity to play with him. And then I had the desire within myself, because I had somebody to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here is an icon that everybody is hovering around the man. He's a champion, and then he's my father.
Yeah.
So I was very blessed and had a huge support from my mom and from my dad. Despite economic conditions being very difficult, they continuously encouraged. I used to regularly come to Nairobi because Mombasa had limited sports.
Yeah.
So if you had to play at a national level, you had to regularly travel, whether it was cricket or whether it was tennis.
Yeah.
And they continuously encouraged, and without that encouragement, I don't think I would be sitting here today.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, in terms of your father, the prejudice he faced at the beginning of his career, did all that change once he, quote unquote, made it?
Prejudices can never stop.
Yeah. Don't you think sometimes people feel like you've made it, so they kind of, it makes them drawn to you more?
Well, as I said, unless and until the mindset changes, it's difficult to convince somebody to accept what you are. I think it's got to be within you. If you are a broad-minded person and you would like people around you and you're enjoying somebody's success, then success can also come to you.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to be big enough and accept somebody's success, share the success, because if he's successful, you're successful.
Yeah.
The community is successful, and it all filters around.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about your son? Are things different for him? I mean, of course, the sporting arena has changed so much, but for him playing international cricket for Kenya, how are things different from when you were there and from when his grandfather was there?
Well, as I said, every era has a different situation. Right now, he's a student in England. He's in Loughborough University.
Yeah.
He plays cricket for the first team university. He's got a huge heritage of sports and cricket in that university. He plays the Premier League also for Bromley's Cricket Club in Leicestershire.
Yeah.
And he's been offered to go for trials next year for the Seconds County for Leicestershire. So he's excited about that. But currently he's in Dubai representing the Kenya team, who are playing in a qualifier World Cup 2020 tournament. And so he's part of the team right now. Of course, he has his own different challenges that he has to go through.
Yeah.
But and I'm going to let him go through it instead of protecting him every time or trying to intervene on his success, because that is the same experience my father was that he was there to be, and I knew he was there.
Yeah.
But he never interfered or created a situation. He let me go through that battle, because as a sportsman, you need to go through that process to be tougher, to be stronger, and so that you can make it ahead. Because if every time you had to be protected or to be interfered, I don't think that's healthy for the child. But at the same time, as a parent, we are there to protect him should anything go wrong.
Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful thing that applies even today.
Sure.
Now, in the last 50 years, in your opinion, what are some of the greatest challenges Kenya has had?
In respect to?
Just in general, not even just to sports, just in general.
Well, as I said, the last 50 years, the country has purely been run on a lot of politics. The politics has really governed the country. But I think since 1992, when the political scenario changed,
yes.
You could see, of course, it has taken some time, but now you see the economics running parallel with the politics. In those days, the economics was governed by the politics.
Yeah.
Fortunately, now it's running parallel, and to me that's good. I think the maturity in politics is increasing. I think we're still behind, but it's a process we have to go through. England or the United States, they're all
these older democracies went through the same thing.
They've gone through the same thing. So
Absolutely.
we need to go through the same things, but I think we can learn a little faster, having known what the history of the other parts of the world is. So it's important as Kenya. We can have differences of opinion. That's healthy also, but we must learn to agree to disagree.
Yes,
in a mature way.
Absolutely.
And the country comes first, above everybody else. So I think if that can inculcate within the Kenyans, and especially the generation to come, I think Kenya has a great time ahead.
Well, you've heard it from our guest this afternoon. That is Aasif Karim. And he's told us, Kenya comes first. And we hear this message from all the people who have come on The Perspective, who share what Kenya at 50 means. If we put Kenya first, and if we really allow ourselves to evolve and change, learning lessons from mistakes that have been made in other democracies around the world, Kenya at 100 might be an extremely different, beautiful place to be. We'll be right back after this short break where I'm interviewing a sports legend as well as an Uhuru baby, Aasif Karim, on the evolution of cricket and tennis in Kenya. My name is Mumbi Wetstein. Catch you right after this short break. Welcome back to The Perspective. My name is Mumbi Wetstein. Now with me is sports legend Aasif Karim, who represented Kenya on the national cricket team for 23 years. And he is also an Uhuru baby. He was born 3 days after Kenya gained independence in 1963. Kenya was born in December 12th. He was born December 15th. So there's definitely a connection. You've kind of grown with the country. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask you if you have any siblings who are also involved in sports or who also played internationally.
Yes, I have two brothers. My elder brother, Aasif Karim, he at the moment lives in Kampala, and he was a very, very good tennis player and a cricket player. He also had a 4-year tennis scholarship in the US. And when he got back in 1985-86, he then decided to move to UK.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, had he been here, I think he would have made a huge mark nationally and could have also played cricket and tennis for the country.
Yeah.
And then I have a younger brother who played more of on social basis and now lives in Orlando, in Florida. Since he went to US on studies, he never came back. He's now settled there with his family.
Yeah. Okay. So now my question for you is in terms of your documentary and what you're doing, how much were you also a sportsman in your life, or did you have a career?
Well, I was, again, as I said, I started playing